miss your old familiar friends, but waiting just around the bend. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, there's a heart.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, I'm sure that most of you have heard already of the recent split between Gennady Golovkin and his longtime trainer of 9 years, Abel Sánchez. And I'm sure you guys have reacted to this in your own way, but I myself haven't had a chance to react to it. And what I immediately noticed about the situation is how differently it was treated by both parties involved. Where Golovkin had this to say, he says, "I would like to announce that I have made a major decision for myself and for my career. I want to build on what I have already achieved and continue to better myself. Therefore, I will not be training with Abel Sánchez. This was not an easy decision for me, and it is not a reflection on Abel's professional abilities. He is a great trainer, a loyal trainer, and a Hall of Fame trainer. I will be announcing my new trainer at a later date, but today I want to thank Abel for the lessons he taught me in boxing." Gennady Golovkin's approach to the situation was a lot more discreet and a lot more respectful, whereas Abel took a different approach. He said, "FYI, as of today, I will no longer be working with Gennady Golovkin after a great 9-year run, records set and equaled, developing a Hall of Fame career and making it possible to sign a six-fight, $100 million contract with DAZN. He proposed and insisted on an insulting new trainer compensation schedule. My dignity and honor does not allow me to be screwed like this. It's unfortunate being greedy, being ungrateful, and having no ethics, honor, or integrity. It will end this relationship." Further quotes from Abel Sánchez read, "This is all based on money. It's unfortunate. Offered 1/5 as much as before. He just signed a $100 million contract. Contracts like that create greed. 9 years. Got to this point. I think I did my part. Not only promotion, but training and everything else. It really blindsided me. It hit me hard. I didn't expect that from this kid." And it appears that the nature of the situation, the nature of the discord that led to this breakup has a lot to do with money. And what Abel Sánchez is alleging is that he was going to be offered a fifth of what he was being paid before.
Jesus.
We gotta look at both sides of this thing. We gotta look at both sides before we jump to any conclusions as to who's in the right and who's in the wrong. At least that's what I do when approaching a situation like this and reacting to it. So these are just my thoughts. Just imagine that you've been at the same job for 9 years, and after 9 years of hard work and dedication and loyalty, you walk in there and all of a sudden your employer is telling you that they're only going to be paying you a fifth of what you were already earning. How would you react to that?
Wouldn't be too happy about
Ladies
it.
and gentlemen, needless to say, I think that any one of us, if we walked into a situation like that, we wouldn't be none too pleased about it. And that appears to be the nature of the issue when it comes to Abel Sánchez. That at least according to him, he was only going to be making a fifth of what he was making before. So if you're going to be unbiased, if you're going to call it down the middle, if you're going to make an even-tempered, level-headed assessment of what's going on here, if it is true that Abel was only going to be making a fifth of what he was making before, I can see and understand why he feels the way that he feels. That after 9 years alongside Gennady Golovkin, they're telling you you're only going to be making a fifth of what you were making before.
God damn.
Now, bear in mind that we're not assessing Abel Sánchez's ability to train fighters. It's not about his ability as a trainer. It's not about how good you think he is, how bad you think he is, his character, things that he said. Because anybody that follows this channel know, I personally feel that Abel Sánchez shoots off at the mouth a little bit too much, and it has a haphazard effect on his fighter. That because of things that Abel Sánchez says or has said, it's gotten Golovkin some negative press. That perhaps you shouldn't be saying shit like that unless you plan on doing it. And if you don't do it, guess who suffers the consequences? Guess who gets the bad press? Your fighter, for shit that you say. Anybody that follows this channel knows that I don't pull punches on Abel Sánchez's stupid fucking comments. But you'll excuse me for saying so, that in this situation, if it's true, if the story checks out, that he was only going to be making a fifth of what he was making before, not a half, not a third, not a quarter, a fifth. After 9 years next to the same guy, I can understand why that would warrant some, hard feelings. Hard feelings. If you walked into your employer and you'd been at that same employer for 9 years and they told you, hey, you're only going to be getting paid a fifth of what you're doing, what would you do? You'd likely start looking for another fucking job, right? Right. That appears to be the situation. Now, this is only, at least that portion of it, that Sanchez was only going to be getting a fifth of what he was getting before. That's only Abel Sanchez's story. Golovkin has chosen to be a lot more polite, a lot more discreet, and a lot more respectful to what is his former trainer. So we don't really have a lot of the details as far as Golovkin's end of it. But he's not refuting what Abel Sanchez is saying. He's not refuting that they intended to pay him a fifth of what he was getting paid before. So is that silence?
An omission.
An omission.
It's true.
That's what they were going to do. Is Gennady Golovkin not addressing that publicly? Is that an omission that it's true? That y'all was going to pay that dude a fifth of what he was getting before? You got to wonder. The most I can say, because so much is left to the imagination, how many things don't get said behind closed doors that we, the boxing fans, don't know about? All we have is what is in front of us, and what's in front of us is that Abel Sanchez is saying they was only going to pay him a fraction of what he was getting before. Well, I'll say, if that's true, then I can understand why he has some hard feelings. The question now is, given Gennady Golovkin's age and the fact that he's been with the same trainer for such a long time, is breaking that bond, exiting that partnership, is that the right decision for a fighter who's in his mid-30s? For perspective, this does happen, fighters parting ways with their longtime trainers. This does happen fairly often. It happens more often than you think. I mean, look at what happened with Tim Bradley and Joel Diaz. They severed ties, and it wasn't an amicable situation. There were some harsh things that were being said publicly. Tim Bradley, he went on to become a fireman with Teddy Atlas. And look at what happened with Zurdo Ramirez very recently ahead of his debut as a light heavyweight. He also parted ways with his longtime trainer. It wasn't as
discussed in the public,
or at least it didn't seem as bad a situation as this. But fighters parting ways with their longtime trainers, it happens more often than you think. And usually it's because the fighter, at least the reasons that we're given, is because the fighter feels that trainer has taken him as far as he can go, and he's looking to improve upon and add to what he's already achieved. And maybe for Golovkin, that's what's going on. He tried to find a dry way of doing this, that rather than just outright firing Abel Sanchez, he proposed a dollar amount that he knew Abel wouldn't accept, thereby severing ties in a very dry way. Could be a situation like that. I mean, at least from where Abel is sitting, we know why the situation is where it is. But for Golovkin, we do have to question, why would you decide, if that's what you decided, because look at who it's coming from, that they were going to pay Abel Sanchez a fifth. But if that's what was going on, if that's really what was going on, why did Gennady Golovkin lower the pay grade for Abel Sanchez so much? I mean, you guys have been in this thing for 9 years together, so all of a sudden you're going to pay him a fifth of what he was getting before? So soon after signing a $100 million contract? Why would you do that? Maybe Golovkin felt that Abel's taken him as far as he can go, that he has exhausted whatever benefit there was to his partnership with Abel Sanchez. It has been exhausted, and he's in the market for something new. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he wants to add something to his repertoire that he doesn't feel Abel can give him as a trainer. It could be that way. Golovkin has chosen to be very discreet, very respectful towards the situation, so we really don't know where his head is at. We don't know why he chose to do what he did.
Not specifically.
And with all the harsh criticisms levied towards Abel Sanchez's ability as a trainer, that, he can make a guy a decent fighter, but a lot of times these guys go out there and they're not plan B guys, you understand? That if plan A doesn't work, a lot of Abel Sanchez's fighters don't seem to have a plan B. I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it. I'll say, once again, that if the story checks out, that Abel was only going to be getting a fifth of what he was getting before, then I can understand the hard feelings, being lowballed in that way after 9 years of hard work and dedication. And I say that in spite of Abel Sanchez's stupid comments that he makes to the media, in spite of certain things he says that, get his fighter negative press. At the end of the day, if we're just going to look at this situation for what it is, I don't know that I can blame Abel Sanchez for having hard feelings. Just one man's opinion.
And, I know the organization requires the champion to defend their title, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that. Not that I wouldn't want to. I would love to be able to defend my title, but there's also other options that I'm exploring. So most likely, we're gonna have to vacate the title.
Most likely? Or?
Well, it seems like that's what we're gonna do, vacate the title. I haven't officially made that decision yet, like it's done. Mauricio and I still have to discuss some options. I might have an opportunity to do it, but I'm gonna vacate the title. In the last thing, I'm gonna have to vacate the title. I don't plan on fighting right now. My next fight at 135. So that means he told me the title will be, vacated right now. You will fight, whoever I choose to fight in a different weight class. Someone else will fight for that.
Well, it appears that we finally got our answer as far as what's going to happen with that WBC title at 135 pounds. It appears that we finally got a point of reference for, one, what's Mikey Garcia plan to do next, and two, what's the status of that world title? Is he going to go back down there and defend it, or is he going to vacate it? And it does appear, he said he's going to vacate it.
I'm going to vacate the title.
That means that world title will be available for Luke Campbell to fight for. Now, Mikey Garcia was given one of those goofy-ass WBC designations, emeritus status. It's one of those designations that basically, to the layman, means they will afford Mikey Garcia a shot at their world title as soon as he wants one. That's pretty much the gist of it. They want to keep the door open for Mikey Garcia to hold one of their belts. They want him holding one of their belts, so they've given him one of their goofy fucking designations. That's basically what that means. But I'll tell you the truth, that even though Mikey Garcia
seems very ambivalent,
is trying to leave the door open for a Vasyl Lomachenko fight, at least he wants to give off that appearance. I'm not holding my fucking breath for that fight, because if that fight really was a priority to Mikey Garcia, he would have never went up there to 147 in the first place, and he wouldn't still be talking about 147 right now. In the article posted here on your screen, you will see, highlighted in green, that Mikey Garcia, for some reason, still has aspirations of winning a world title at 147 pounds, and I don't know who the fuck from, because Sean Porter's about to fight Errol Spence. So what, you plan on having a rematch with him? Assuming Spence wins and unifies both those world titles, what's Mikey gonna do? Have a rematch with him and then lose again? Not likely. We then look over at the WBA title, which Keith Thurman currently holds, the full version of the WBA title, and Keith Thurman is being rumored to be squaring off against Manny Pacquiao sometime this summer. I'm thinking that maybe that's
it.
The fight, or at least the winner of that fight. That might be who Mikey's got in his crosshairs. That if by some off chance Manny Pacquiao manages to upset Keith Thurman, Mikey Garcia wants to be in line for that fight. That's what I'm thinking, because I don't for a second believe that the world title Mikey plans on winning at 147 is going to be that WBO title. The WBO title that Terrence Crawford's holding. I don't think for a second Mikey Garcia wants to do the dance with Terrence Crawford, because he already admitted as much months ago. He feels that Crawford would use his height and his reach, and he'd use lateral movement. Essentially, he would box. That's basically what Mikey was saying. That he don't want to fight Crawford because he's going to box. You might as well have just said that.
So I don't think he's after the WBO.
He plans on winning the title in that weight class. It might be the WBA if Manny wins it. Now, if things are looking dry at 147 for Mikey, he don't like them situations, then he is leaving the door open for fights at 140 pounds. Thing is that them fights at 140 pounds, well, Ramirez is a Top Rank guy, and we all know how much you're buddies with Top Rank, right? So I don't look at that fight as being very likely. Maurice Hooker, he's got the WBO title, but guess what? He's a Matchroom DAZN guy. And we already see the friction between PBC guys and Matchroom guys. It seems like they've got friction with everybody. There is still the winner of the World Boxing Super Series, but that the winner of that fight, whoever it is, whoever it comes out to be, the winner of that fight has yet to be determined, and that really won't be determined until many months down the line. I mean, we're just now approaching the semi-final that will eventually lead to the final, and who knows how many fucking months that's going to take. So I'm not even sure what opportunities are there for Mikey Garcia at 140 pounds. But I'll tell you that I don't believe for a second the Vasyl Lomachenko fight is a priority for Mikey Garcia. Now, hindsight being 2020, we can see that fight was not important to him. It was not a priority on his docket, his to-do list. Because if it were, you wouldn't have chosen to go up there to 147 just to get beat like everybody knew you were going to get beat. That whether they thought you were going to get knocked out or they thought you were going to get outpointed, one way or another,
you were going to lose.
You were going to get beat. And that makes things a bit anticlimactic for what is Mikey Garcia's career, what remains of it. Understand that I've never denied Mikey Garcia any credit for any of the things he's done in his career. Not that long ago, he was ranked on the Ring IQ pound for pound list, but we know what the rules are. I'm not going to get into all of that again. If you want to know what the rules are, there's any variety of videos you can watch where I discuss it. Point is, I've never denied Mikey Garcia his just due for being a 4-division champion, for retaining, defending, what have you, picking up those world titles, and you know, the last time he fought at 135, he actually unified 2 world titles, the IBF and the WBC. But I'll say that for all Mikey Garcia's accolades throughout 4 different weight classes, 4 weight classes where he's become a champion in, and the champions that he's beaten to get there, for all those accolades, his resume still feels like it was missing something, and that something that it was missing was the likes of a Vasyl Lomachenko, that for all the people you've beaten, you never beat nobody like this. Somebody who's at this stage in their career, and they're highly touted, how you're highly touted, they're a world champion, how you're a world champion, and they're right here in your weight class, waiting for you. And we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill champion. We're not talking about your run-of-the-mill guy. This is your fight, the way the Crawford fight is Spence's fight, the way the Joshua fight is Wilder's fight. This is your fight. Vasyl Lomachenko is this to you and your legacy and your resume. And now it looks like we shouldn't even expect to see that thing. Not in the near future, if at all. And a resume, Mikey's resume, absent. That fight being absent on his resume, that name being absent on his resume, it's a bit anticlimactic. I mean, it is. What do you really want to see? Do you want to see Mikey Garcia versus Maurice Hook, or do you want to see him fight Vasyl Lomachenko and settle the score? Do you want to see Mikey versus Ramirez, or do you want to see Mikey versus Loma to settle the score? Ask yourself that question. Because what I'm feeling now is, you know what? Mikey's had a very successful career. It's not over yet. There's still more to do. But if that fight with Vasyl Lomachenko doesn't happen, I don't think it reflects well on Mikey Garcia. I don't. I think the window of opportunity was there for that fight to come into fruition, and he chose to have a glorified loss at 147. That's something that he chose instead of having that career-defining fight. And now, what should we expect? Mikey at 140? Mikey at 147? Pick your poison. But what we shouldn't expect is a Lomachenko fight, because you can't even so much as commit to a mandatory at 135, let alone a unification fight. So, I mean, how are we supposed to react to that? How are you reacting to that news? That in the case of Mikey Garcia and his career, he got to the point where there was a super fight out there waiting for him to call his own. And rather than doing what he needed to do to make that fight a reality, he put it on the back burner, deprioritized it, so that he could add a glorified loss to his resume.